Growing up, I always knew my mom was my best friend. On a Friday night, the only thing I wanted to do was curl up on the couch with her and watch a rom com. I knew from an early age that I wasn't like the other girls in my grade who would all have sleepovers and go to Starbucks after school. I would always rather just hang out with my mom, who did always get the calls from the sleepovers when I wanted to leave. We would go through all the classic chick flicks together from all the decades, going from The Holiday to Sabrina. Picture the Gilmore Girls, inseparable mother-daughter duo Rory and Lorelai, who finish each other's sentences and share knowing glances. Even still, like all close relationships, we had our typical mother-daughter moments, like fights in the Coles dressing rooms with Sarah Bareilles playing on the speaker. Shopping was always a battle of different styles and never ended well. But even still, when we got home, we would have to band together to give my dad a fashion show. Being best friends with my mom, I saw so many different sides of her. She's kind and nurturing, but also hilarious, smart, and fiercely passionate. But the other side that I saw from my mom that I admired most was her strength. I saw my mom display a form of strength that not many kids do. When I was a toddler, her mother was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. She was 64. As a kid, I never really understood what that meant for my Busha. I dreaded going to visit her, if I'm being honest, because I just didn't really understand what was going on. What I knew was this: my grandma was sick, my mom was frazzled, and I was confused. My mom explained it the best she could, that my Busha was slowly losing her memory, and she would become more and more forgetful of both small and big things. But since her illness started when I was too young to remember, it was always just a normal thing for me. For a while, my brother and I could sit and talk with her with only small moments of confusion sinking in. But as we got older, she would look at us with a haze in her eye as we would remind her who we were. Like when she would call the house phone and I would pick up, not only would I have to clarify that I wasn't my mom, we have very similar voices, but I would also have to explain that Olivia is her granddaughter. So when I went with my mom to visit, I would just end up sitting on her striped couch with the embroidery pine-stuffed pillow playing an old version of Shut the Box in a house that smelled like old wilted flower bouquets, while my mom helped clean her closet, go through paperwork, all the things. On the drives home from her house, I could always sense my mom's feelings intuitively, that she was exhausted, but had to keep up her energy to be there for my brother and I. People talk a lot about how Gen X is considered the sandwich generation, trapped between caretaking for their children and their parents at the same time. I saw that so deeply reflected in my mom's situation. Not only was she sandwiched between two moody teenagers going through puberty, but also mothering her own mom, who was rapidly losing her cognitive abilities. But despite this messy sandwich, she always remained strong. To me, strength was that she showed us her most vulnerable emotions, and she never hid the truth from us about the situation either. There was one day where we took my Busha to the Brookfield Zoo, and while in the primate house, which anyone who's been there knows how crowded, loud, and chaotic it is between the kids and the monkeys, we turned around and she was gone in the crowd. It was like actually searching through the jungle, passing through all the people and weaving between the walls painted to look like actual jungle. Of course, we were all in a panic, but my mom stayed level-headed and immediately sought help. We ended up reuniting with my Busha not long after as she came riding over in a zoo-themed golf cart with a big monkey on the side. My mom didn't try to pretend like everything was okay, but she also showed us how to keep calm in chaotic situations. We saw her tears in situations like those, but we never saw her weakness. She showed me what it was like to be honest with your emotions while upholding that strength. Let me just say, there is nothing like watching your mother lose her mother. Every time she came home from visiting her, I could see the toll of caretaking on her face, but her strength never wavered. I knew she was fighting an internal battle of exhaustion of being a caretaker, but also the simultaneous commitment to my Busha's care. I knew from the love I had for my own mom, the depth of love she had for hers was the reason why she never stopped. So when my grandma passed away in 2018, I was just 14. There wasn't much more grieving we could do. We had been grieving her since she was diagnosed. She had been living in a memory care facility for a few years at that point, and towards the end, she didn't speak a lot and was completely dependent on her caretakers. We only occasionally saw glimpses of her when we played the Beatles and she could still sing every word, or when my brother and I would swear in Polish to get a rise out of her, and she would give us her signature glare from above the top of her glasses. But in the end, the Busha that we all knew had been gone for a very long time. So her passing did bring us a sense of relief, knowing that she was finally free from the prison of her own mind. But that relief still didn't heal the grief that was now all-consuming to my mom. So I would sit with her while she cried and tell her, "I'll be your mom," knowing that that could never really be true. I couldn't replace her mom, but I wish I could have filled the hole in her heart. I still try my hardest, though, to be there for her through all of life's ups and downs, because I know she does the same for me. I have always mourned the relationship that I never had with my Busha. I was too young to ask her questions about her life or about my mom as a kid. But now I love to ask my mom about her, look through photos and old jewelry. And despite not having a typical grandma-granddaughter relationship, I still feel a very strong tie to her. So when I read the following fact, it all made sense. I found out that since all the eggs a woman carries are inside of them before birth, when our grandmothers were pregnant with our mothers, my egg, your egg, our eggs were inside our mothers and our grandmothers at the same time, much like a nesting doll. We are the little nesting dolls that rest inside our mothers and their mothers. As you open one up after the other, the similarities begin to appear. I was once a part of my grandmother, and she was a part of me. That brings me so much comfort to know that her and I have been interconnected since before I was even born. And we are still connected, though I didn't know her in quite the way I had envisioned. And the best part is that my mom was always our link. She was not only our biological link, but everything I know about my Busha comes from my mom. And sometimes I even see my Busha's face in hers. After growing up observing the effects of Alzheimer's on a family, every moment and every memory becomes all the more precious. I understand better the unwavering love of motherhood as it extends beyond generations. And I can proudly say that I am a part of a pretty great nesting doll.